Yes, guys, welcome back to another week of the weekly roundup. It's week 15 today.
That's
Week
15.
15. That's
That's
what-
15 with.
15.
I just did that. That's 15.
Week 15.
That's 15 whole episodes of Weekly Roundup.
Us talking. Probably boring you.
Nah, there's the best content.
Podcast
It's the,
on YouTube. I don't care
it's
what
the
anybody
best,
says.
like, underrated podcast.
Free. It's
Yeah.
good information. You know, we're not. You know, I'd like to think we're clever
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
You know,
why not?
We don't
Come on,
just
let's
flub around it.
Let's go for that.
But we've got a lot of tabs today. There's not really a lot to talk about, but there's a lot of XRP stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so if you're into XRP, this is your week.
This is the week. There's nothing like, I wouldn't say there's anything like in terms of crypto. Do you know how we normally have like a specific crypto firm, whatever, going liquidating and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's not that.
Not too much today, but it's slightly different this week. But we're kicking off with our good old friend, inflation.
Inflation.
So obviously 9.4% for the UK, highest in 40 years. Not good news at all. But markets were pretty much like unaffected from it. They didn't. I wouldn't say it obviously like melted down from this news coming out, but because everyone knows what's going on with inflation.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, some of it's priced in or whatever. If you want to go down that.
Yeah, although today, on a kind of something that's just reminded me of something, the ECB increased their interest rates by 0.5% when it was expected 0.25, and we actually had a big rally on gold after that. And the only reason I know that is because I had a short on gold, and it hit, well, it didn't hit my stop loss because I was in the green, but I just closed my trade because it started to rally off the back of that news.
That's no good, then, is it? But it's obviously maybe slightly higher than they anticipated then, really. That's with that increase in the rate hike. But yeah, not good. Obviously, thought we'd touch on it, and the reason we are touching on it is because the next two tabs are pretty
Yeah, it's mad.
a bit mad. So
I mean, I feel like we're reporting this every week.
yeah,
like,
there's always
happening every week.
There's always something going on with inflation, but like the repercussions of inflation are now with us. And obviously, this isn't really specifically crypto news. It's just more news in general in terms of how inflation is affecting people to do stuff like this. Obviously, we've got Panama, Sri Lanka. Obviously, we've got it going on everywhere. Ecuador,
It's literally everywhere.
it's kicking off everywhere now, and like I feel like
I think this one is Ecuador.
Ecuador, there you go. It's just China, obviously, which we got in on another tab as well. I think from the same guy actually, who's obviously China have got tanks protecting their banks.
That is mad.
It's
Look at the state of it.
2022. We've got tanks protecting. It's nuts to me. Like,
But look, that's the street in front of the bank. There's just a
can't believe
line of
this
tanks.
is the kind of stuff you'd see in movies, guys. Do you know what I mean? It's not like something I'd expect to see in our world, but this is the true reality in terms of what inflation is doing to people and how it's affecting their lives. And you know, obviously we're quite blessed in the fact that we aren't obviously like percentage wise feeling it as bad as these guys, to the extent that these guys are obviously going out to the streets. But I wouldn't be surprised if obviously we start seeing stuff here. Maybe I don't know if it would be that bad, but like
Yeah, well, we've seen China. We've had, I don't know if we reported on it last week, but there's been like a few times where people have been trying to get into the banks in China, or Sri Lanka and stuff like that as well. But look, this thing made me laugh. This quote. This is because the Henan branch of China is declaring that people's savings in their branch are now investment products and can't be withdrawn. But people think, like, this is actually a big point. People think that in the UK and other countries like that we can't do the same thing, but that's actually untrue. We are kind of guaranteed a specific amount of savings, but if there's a situation where the bank becomes insolvent or needs our money, there's something called a bail-in, which is basically where the bank's just going to use your savings to do whatever they want. And they did that in Greece. Yeah. That's why they had that massive financial crisis in Greece. They did that in Northern Rock, but then they obviously got bailed out by the government. But it nearly happened in Italy, nearly happened in Spain. Like, we're on the border of something big.
Something like that.
Yeah, because like we talk about this, we look at that, and I look at that, like all these videos of like protests, and I was just relating it to Pab before we came on camera and saying, this is what I feel like we were like before C19 happened. We looked at all the other countries going into lockdown, like again, like your Italy, they were like queuing outside of shops wearing face masks. We were like, oh, this is never going to happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's on your doorstep, and then this is like what's happening like all over the world. There's countries everywhere, and like obviously Sri Lanka have gone completely bankrupt. You've got like Ecuador 57% inflation, like high inflation Argentina, Turkey, you got riots in like Panama, Sri Lanka, obviously as we said, and then China as well. Like China in a country that's like they've got no problem like beating someone up or killing them if they go against go against the rules, and people are still revolting. So you know it's got to be bad. Yeah.
That's, I guess that does speak volumes, to be fair, doesn't it? But like, it's not good to see, obviously. Like, but that's just like I said, it just shows how bad the situation. Not even just inflation. Like, you just look about the whole situation about the world in general right now.
We're in a mess.
The whole financial system. It just shows like it's almost at like the tipping point, and it's ready for the new world order.
Ooh. And but what was my dad said something yesterday. He goes, "What better time for China to invade Taiwan when you've got problems at home? Go and start a war, so you take your eyes off the problems going on within your own country." I feel like it's a little bit like the timing of the Russia-Ukraine invasion as well. But what's the next topic? I don't know what's going on here. Here we go. This is the next topic. Pound. Basically, moving topics because we didn't know really how to link these, but the House of Commons have had a bill introduced yesterday to do with stablecoins in the UK. There isn't too much actually about the bill. If you click into the article and read into it, it doesn't actually give you that much information. It just says that a bill was brought into the House of Commons and they were going to discuss it in Parliament. That's essentially it.
So we're just waiting for what comes out of that in terms of, but nothing's been released. But
no, I think they're pretty close.
Quite positive to see that UK are, doing something like in terms of this regulations in terms of stable coins. You wouldn't see, like you said, obviously you wouldn't see this in America at the moment, so it feels good to be in a country which really
is trying to embrace it.
They're being proactive again. Obviously, we've reported on it in past weeks about the Digital Pound Foundation and just UK in general being quite crypto friendly and trying to get the ball rolling on it. So it's good to see stuff like this. It really is. In terms of what comes out of it, like the details, I guess we will see as soon as we get that.
It's been quite proactive both in the UK and also in Europe. They're both like quite close, in my opinion, to bring in some sort of regulation out, especially around stablecoins. And then this is a secondary article. This came out, it says 13th of April, but I actually only saw it last week, so I didn't realise it was actually 13th of April. I saw this last week, and it's basically saying that digital pound was released from a company in the Isle of Man, and Blackfridge Limited release a GBP stablecoin.
Yep, again, just goes back to that point, doesn't it, in terms of like, because obviously that's quite close to home as well, so it's another positive sign for us in the UK.
It is. And then we've got this.
News.
So this obviously came as a big shock to everybody.
Yeah, no one expected it to come. Obviously, as the news was announced, we did see a bit of a dip in the market. We didn't lose like structure as such, but obviously it did.
I'll show you where it was.
People tend to obviously latch on to Tesla news like anything because it's just to do with Elon Musk, and they see him as quite a tech savvy person. So here, that's the red candle, I believe it was.
Well, maybe actually I'm on the hourly. Yeah, it came in like here. It actually wasn't around here.
I can't remember the specific time.
What was it?
It was evening, I think. Our time,
July 18th. Let's have a look. 8 hours ago ish. Yeah, it was. It was
probably the one with the wick at the bottom there. I think it was because it did recover quite quickly. So like
today's recovery.
Again, it just kind of seems like maybe if this news is in different part of sentiment. If the price was high, it would have gone potentially lower. But because the price is already on the floor. Yeah. Like what's a bit of Tesla selling 75? I know it's a lot of Bitcoin, but potentially could have been more. But
yeah, and then we followed it up with a tweet saying that they've sold that, but the average price of the sale was actually 29,000. So people thought they were sold it yesterday, but it was just from their Q2 report that we found that out. So they actually sold an interesting price point. They sold it actually at a loss, which I find quite interesting. And I'm going to show you the difference of where they sold. So in and around 29,000 was their sale price, which is this level here. This is when we started to see those liquidations from companies like 3 Arrows Capital, Terra Luna being finished off, Celsius, and the other insolvency issues. So they sold as an average in this area, but they actually bought up here. So they actually sold at a loss, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
And then obviously he came out, he released a statement, didn't he, in terms of why he did do this, and it was to do with he was unsure about the supply chain issues to do with China, wanted to free up a bit of cash. Whether that was actually the real reason, obviously we will never know that, but that's what he was saying. But like you said, it's a bit of a weird timing in the fact that it could have potentially caused all these liquidations, like started a domino effect. Whether it was because it's a lot of Bitcoin that he was selling in terms of 75% of what his overall holdings was on it. So
yeah, I feel like he's gone from being like the hero of the space to the villain like real
people
quick.
Are starting to like dislike Elon quite quickly, aren't they? Especially with like everything that's going on with Twitter as well, all that kind of stuff.
And so now we're on to XRP news.
We are on to
XRP
news. The juicy stuff.
And we're on to some snakes.
Here he is, Ben.
I'm going to not play the clip, but I'm going to show you this guy.
Here he is, Mr. Sherman. So he's basically come out and made some ridiculous comments in terms of like, so who is he? Because I don't know too much about him.
He is just a congressperson, like he's a senator,
yeah, okay.
a congressperson. I don't know how they are actually, don't know what their official, like how you say it plurally. But he's basically come out, he was leading like a question of the SEC. That Gary Gensler, I think, was supposed to be there, but didn't turn up.
Oh, okay.
And only the head of enforcement turned up. I don't know what that guy's name is. But they basically were questioning him from both sides, like Democrats and Republicans, giving them the questions. Some were actually praising the SEC, saying they were doing a good job.
Yeah.
And then some were saying like that you killed an innovation. And it wasn't just about crypto, but there was a lot about crypto. And this is one of the opening statements, and he literally talks about XRP straight away.
Yeah.
And the guy literally specified saying, you know XRP is a security to the SEC. I know it's a security, and the exchanges know it was a security. And so there's been a lot of like talk, especially in the XRP community, about this.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, for someone of his stature or whatever, obviously he's got himself in this position he's in now, but for someone of that importance, let's say, to be coming out with comments like that is, I don't know, like, I feel like, firstly, I think it's a bit unprofessional to say stuff, come out on a limb and just say that, because it's obviously, there's a court case, it's quite sensitive information, isn't it? Regardless whether it's your opinion or not.
But even if it is your opinion, he states it like it's fact, and it obviously isn't fact, otherwise it wouldn't be under dispute.
That's what I mean. It wouldn't be a case right now if it was such clear and cut like he's trying to make out. It's a ridiculous statement regardless, but...
and then we've got a little bit about this. So then obviously our guy, Jeremy Hogan, chimed in, because Eleanor Terrett basically says that she asked Sherman why he thinks XRP was security. He said, this is his reasoning, for the reasons set forth by the SEC's petition, and went on to explain XRP investors relied on Ripple's efforts to bump up the price. Then he said he has the proof that stems from the crypto exchanges. And then Hogan replies, ask Mr. Sherman how he arrived at the conclusion. As both parties are under court order not to disclose evidence to third parties such as him, did the SEC violate court rules, provide him with evidence in the case, or is he making recommendations to Gensler without basis?
That's what I was just trying to say.
It's
like,
mad,
you
isn't
can't really
it?
come out and say stuff like that. And it's these are the people that are basically in charge of like controlling basically innovation within America. Basically, do you know what I mean? These aren't just like some jokes. These guys are actually got like quite high stature jobs, and they're coming out and making bold claims, and Hogan's calling them out. And then also I think this is the secondary tab, I think it is.
And then so we'll go to the secondary tab first.
So obviously he's picked on the wrong community, like King Solomon says here. So he did a bit of diving into this guy, didn't he?
Yeah.
And so I think obviously you do a better job explaining it. Basically, from what Will told me, is that they get actually you might as well go on and explain it.
Yeah,
I was gonna butcher it.
Like obviously, I don't know where like the demographics of people watching this video are, but from my understanding in the US, if you want to create a law or you want to speak to a senator, the senators are the people who put the laws forward. They get people called lobbyists, and those people basically go to them with their suggestions of how they think that the law should go forward, things they should suggest, and whoever pays the most to the senator is what the senator then goes to talk about in court, in Congress. Sorry.
And one of his highest,
his number one highest
is basically a competitor to Ripple's and the XRP, like cross border transactions. That's right, isn't it?
Something to do with ETH and a competitor to Ripple.
Like I said, is corruption exposed. It's if that is facts in terms of like that there's been his highest paid like lobbyist, whatever it's called, and he's coming out and saying stuff like that.
It's mad. Like, how is this allowed? How is this allowed?
And like no one's going to say anything as well. No one's going to batter an eyelid to it in terms of like commenting on making bold comments like that, especially when you've got information like here, which is clearly public knowledge. If someone can do a bit of deep dive research into it. And
I've seen it. Like I've had a thought recently. It's kind of going a bit off like on the tangent, but like. No, yeah, by the way, look at King Solomon. As a fact, XRP is a security, in my opinion. That's what Sherman said.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think that politicians should get sued, and I go all the way up to the president, like Joe Biden and the politicians in the UK, if you release blatantly false information or something that's got no research, what you say you should have legal action taken on you, because
some sort of fine, some sort of repercussions, because I feel like they get away with whatever they want.
Yeah, they can say what they want. So Joe Biden the other day said that there's no relationship between printing of money and inflation in the US.
Which is ridiculous.
That, like, I can understand how you could say that with like one wave of printing, you might be able to get through something, but over time, if you increase the circulation, it will have an effect on inflation. So that is a straight out lie. I know there's more effects and which include like supply chain issues, which is probably why we're getting inflation now, but there is a correlation between the money printing and inflation. So it's a ridiculous statement. And I feel like, if a company like McDonald's came out and said, oh yeah, our flipping cheeseburger is the healthiest burger you can get on the planet. If you eat these all day, every day, you're going to be the healthiest person.
I mean. They're not allowed to do that.
No, it's a complete lie.
Exactly. So like, let's relate that back in the day when they used to advertise cigarettes. As
that's a great
They
point.
used to, promote that, saying it's healthy for you. Doctors were smoking it. That got cut off ages ago. So like, I don't even know what year it was, but it was really obviously like, let's say 50 years ago, over 50 years ago. So stuff like that's getting cut out 50 years ago. It should be the same now with ridiculous statements like that, because it's just false information.
Exactly.
Just don't comment on that kind of stuff. Don't make that statement.
Exactly that, and that's what Stuart Alderati, who is Ripple's lead of their general counsel, said. Can I get a fact check on aisle 2, please? Rep Sherman, the US has not, in fact, no country has determined XRP to be a security. When elected officials don't understand, the mere filing of a case by the SEC doesn't determine anything. It's more than concerning. So, and then he said here, only the court can make a determination. It's called due process. This is the how do you say that word?
Pernicious
effect to the SEC's regulation by enforcement approach, harming people, markets, and American innovation with unproven allegations. That's another one there.
Yeah,
masquerading as regulation.
So long words right there.
Basically, what he's saying is there's been no decision made. Exactly what we're talking about. How can he know exactly what the determination of a lawsuit
It's ridiculous, honestly. Even from me sitting here, obviously we are invested in XRP, so I guess you can kind of say there's a slight bias there. But regardless, you shouldn't be commenting, making allegations when there's a court case going on, and obviously it's split right now. Obviously, do you know what I mean?
But there's just no decision.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like. And he's just coming out saying, we know, I know, they know.
I know, you know, we know, everyone knows.
If it was that clear and cut, like I said, there wouldn't be a court case going on about it. The judges in charge right now are probably laughing at him saying that, because obviously it's like, what are they doing then?
Yeah, but does that have any influence on the judge?
Maybe that's what he's trying to do, because he's obviously getting...
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, does the judge sit there and go, shit, like, Congress literally know that it's a security and I'm about to decide that it's not?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, is she going to decide that or not? I just that was hypothetical.
Fishy. There's a lot of fishy things going on over there.
And then this, like, we're going to go on to the SEC now.
This is just a little bit of news. It's just the SEC being a bit petty, in my opinion, anyway, because they're just talking about John Deaton, and they just don't want him involved in it anymore, because he's obviously such a prominent figure within the XRP community. Obviously, a lot of people kind of speak to him as well, and they don't want anything. They don't want him to do anything with him and the case. They don't want it.
No,
they don't want it.
Every single time that John Deaton, and he's, by the way, he's been granted by the court to be to be able to assist as an amicus status. Every single time he ever says anything, they try and cut it out, and they've even got to the point now where, like they're saying here, they're just like trying to revoke anything that he says, and they're saying that like the reason that they wanted to do this is because he had threatened the SEC, or actually, I think that the exact phrase on this one, on others, he said basically that XRP community people may threaten their expert witness. The SEC said that, and then on this one, they literally said because that he used like derogatory language in a tweet once, that he shouldn't be involved in the case.
I feel like we're in a school playground right now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's mad, isn't it?
People telling off other people to like the headmaster, i.e. the judges.
He did a swear a few weeks ago on Twitter.
He shouldn't be allowed in this. He's not setting a good example. It's just like, grow up.
And then
grow up and sort the case out and stop doing things like this.
This just happened right now. It's breaking news.
It's breaking.
It literally came out 7:15, an hour ago. the SEC has requested permission to file a 30-page opening brief and a 10-page reply brief in support of the SEC's objections to Magistrate Judge Netburn's ruling, ordering the SEC to disclose the Hickman documents, and Ripple objects.
So we saw some sort of... We kind of thought something like this would happen in terms of them kind of rejecting...
So it's into Judge Torres, by the way, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're escalating it to Judge Torres.
Okay, so it's not even going through Netburn. Okay, that's interesting. But so that basically they've only filed permission to provide this 30-page and 10-page reply to them, basically. So it's not actually been granted yet. Obviously, Ripple object. So I'm guessing we'll get a decision on this within... I'd say we'll get a decision on this fairly quick, because they're going to want to deal... If it answer is a yes, and they say, okay, fine, let me read this. It's quite a big report. They're going to want to study it and properly go through it, but...
We're a year down the line.
I know, we keep saying this every week.
We're a year down the line, and they made the decision last week, innit?
That's what I was saying to Will before, obviously, when this broke. Surely she's made a decision, then wanting to file like some sort of reply to it, a 30-page opening brief and a 10-page reply. It's not even like a short thing.
No.
Surely she's like, look, I've made my decision. That is what I said. I don't want to see this. So what? She could say that.
I think
Torres
will say, yeah, you can file the brief.
Yeah.
Because she's going to want to, like... Because otherwise, what they're going to do probably is say, oh, you wouldn't even let us file a brief, so we want to escalate this to the secondary circuit or whatever.
Probably.
She'll probably say, yeah, you can file a brief, but, like... this is me, okay? So I'm not a lawyer in any way.
Yeah.
But from seeing what I've seen so far, I think this is what she'll do. Is she'll say, look, you can file a brief, not 30 pages, 10 pages. I'm going to read it. And then but I want it in by like a week.
Yeah, could be that, because she probably doesn't want to sit through and read that. But she might just say yes, read through it really briefly with that. Have already her decision in her mind that she's gonna just reject it anyway. But
I don't see how she can't reject it. Like, they've made this watertight now. The SEC are just taking the piss.
Yeah, it's another delay, but I don't see what they're waiting for. What are they waiting for? There's obviously something else behind it, but. Time will tell with this one. I'm guessing we'll get a decision fairly quick, in my opinion. I reckon start or mid to next week we'll get some sort of decision on her.
Yeah, I think she'll reply to this pretty quick.
Fairly
like,
quickly. It's not a big decision in it. I feel like she'll make a decision and just reply on it because
she's probably already expecting something like this to happen. It's probably quite common practice in law.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I presume that, and from what Jeremy Hogan says, like when you're in a bad position in a case, like you just like keep
throw everything at it.
Yeah. And then finally this. Quite a big thing that happened this week.
That's what I mean. It's broke out early this week. Everyone knew it was coming. Obviously, everyone's been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. Jed McCaleb's Takistan wallet is empty, so we technically have more XRP than Jed.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's made more money off it, but we've got more XRP now. So. But yeah, it's obviously some people were questioning like whether it was big news or whether it weren't. I guess it's got to be more positive news than negative news because we've got less selling pressure on. Whether that affects the price massively, probably not. But
I mean, he was selling between 4 and 7 million a day, at least for the last few weeks when I was like looking at it, and that's got to do something. Yeah, it's not like
it's hard to tell.
It takes 7 million of selling pressure out of the market.
That's what I mean. So like I said, it's more positive than negative regardless. But he's out. He's finally done. Because everyone's been talking about this obviously for a long time, but it's finally got to the point where he's out of it now. So
he sold 8 billion XRP, so that has got to have some sort of pressure over like
8 billion. Yeah, that's a lot of XRP.
That's a lot of XRP. And I also think it's more of a deal because Ripple tweeted about it, David Schwartz tweeted about it, and Brad Gardenhouse all tweeted about it. So if it was like a nothing deal, they would just like
they just don't like him or.
Yeah, there's that. And then finally, we'll have a quick update on the charts. Anything that you really want to point out?
Well, there's something I want to point out. Obviously, we spoke about it in the newsletter, and obviously we speak about oil a lot. I read a thread on Twitter this morning, basically about this guy made a long Twitter about why Bitcoin / XRP / everything is just rallying at the moment. His thesis is obviously, as you can see, the price for oil has been on obviously dipping down throughout the whole of July. So he's saying the CPR reads that are going to come out in August are obviously going to show like a lower print than the 9.1% I think it was. So he's saying the smart money is just getting in now in order to take profit for the lower CPR reads. So people are going to start getting it. That's his kind of thesis. But And he's basically made a big thread saying like why he thinks oil is going to rally again just due to supply issues, which it could do. I'm not saying it's not going to. Like I've made that clear in the newsletter as well. But
like that seems quite logical.
It does seem quite logical, but it is based on the fact that he thinks oil is going to continue trading higher, which other people do share that same opinion. But he could be right. You never know. He could be right. This could be.
I think
dragged out a bit longer than we want it to. But
like we've talked about, it's quite pivotal where we are now. Like if we start to like create higher highs, which we haven't actually done, then we probably go on to set like at least come up to challenge these highs or maybe these. But if we don't, then we obviously continue with the downtrend that it looks like we're in here. Like if you're in a downtrend here, obviously quite clearly in a downtrend, we could continue within this. But if we break out of here, you would expect for it to continue in the larger trend that we're in.
There's a lot of reasons why it could potentially break out. There's probably a higher probability that it will break out to even trade sideways to higher or stay quite stagnant trade within this range basically. But I just thought I'd bring that up anyway.
We've got the Treasuries and Raoul Powell's a line that we called this line a while ago, the 2.7% on the 10 years. He thinks that if it comes below that, then inflation's topped. We've been calling that since back here because actually we thought this was a head and shoulders pattern forming here. Didn't actually. It went up higher, set a higher high. But again, this is still the area of interest, and today it's down 4%. And the DXY itself it's like cooling off a bit, but it's not really doing too much. It's probably coming to look.
That's what I mean. It can't go up forever, but I think I put a tweet out not so long ago saying that it'll definitely cool off to 106. And it's obviously not quite got to the 106 mark, but obviously it's within the range. But I just think it will go sideways for a while now. I might probably go down to its moving averages at some point. And that's what I mean. So like whilst as you can see it on this, you can see it on like actual MAs as well. That it normally does tend to bounce off it before, and it kind of does coincide with the fact that obviously crypto is potentially going to rally if we get a nice CPI read, which it probably will. It does. If you start adding all them all up, you can kind of see where it could potentially be going in terms of everything. So
yeah, for sure. And we have actually had, this is on the daily, we have actually had quite a decent pump. This is from Ethereum. Like even in the last in the last week, we're up like 50%. So 60%. It's quite a big push, and we have actually taken the 50 EMA back. But we aren't really challenging any sort of resistance levels yet. Same with Bitcoin. We do really need to be rallying up. This Bitcoin's touching the 50-day EMA, so is it just going to touch that and continue down? Who knows? But we're going to look to challenge. I would think we would look to challenge at least this 28,000 sort of level, depending on what CPI is, and FOMC is next Wednesday as well. So depending on that as well.
Yeah, I'm quite confident it will, unless we get some sort of devastating news or whatever. But obviously, I don't know if I'm just making this up, but I'm pretty sure the 28th of July is when we get a read in terms of like the quarterly growth within the US. So obviously, if we get another negative one, we are technically in a recession. But has it been priced in? That's another argument. But when I feel like when the general public kind of get that news that we're technically in a recession now, it can't be positive, will it, in terms of price action? But who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? We're still in the same position as we've been in the past like 5 weeks in terms of who knows what's going to go on, because nothing is really happening yet. I feel like this big capitulative event still hasn't happened. We've not really had a relief rally either. We're just still in the middle, but I guess we're getting signs of a relief rally potentially. For
sure. So this is the weekly. Like you can see, there's the tight range we've been in. We've obviously come down, and then we've just basically gone sideways, haven't we, for like 5 weeks.
And now this week we've obviously seen like quite a big green candle in comparison to like we are starting to break out of this range, but
it would be nice to see it close on the weekly above that 200, which is like a 10% rise from here, and we've got 3 days and 5 hours for another 10% move. We've had a red day today, almost, or we're on a 0.6% red day, and we had one yesterday. Let's see, that looks like an indication of a downward move with the selling pressure above, and then this looks like the opposite. So it's basically a sideways. These two almost, in my opinion, cancel each other out. So the next day, so tomorrow, or if we continue on we'll get some more volume today, we obviously could push over this moving average. The next day or two, we're going to indicate what we do for the next little trend, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if we obviously reverse and come down further, we probably come down and test this trend line-ish here. And if we push up and have a daily close above the 50 EMA again, we probably come up towards this. or the bottom of this previous support. So yeah, that's our weekly roundup for you, I think.
Nothing really breaking this week. It's just kind of a bit of an update. I'm sure, hopefully something, we get some more to discuss next week, which I'm sure we will.
Yeah, and I hope Judge Torres comes out and just slaps the XRP down.
Hopefully by the time we obviously record our next episode, we'll get a decision on that, or some sort of inkling in terms of where that's going. But until next week.
Peace up, A-Town down.